Let's talk about the woman who walks into a room and doesn't scan it for approval. The one who isn't gripping so tightly that her knuckles turn white, who isn't begging to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved. Instead, she is loved, not in a fairy tale rom-com kind of way. No, she is loved because she loves herself first. And that's the kind of woman men can't resist. Now, before we go any further, let's clear something up. Detachment isn't about being cold. It's not about pretending not to care or playing games to get a reaction. No, detachment is about self-respect. It's about holding your head high and knowing that if someone chooses to walk away, you won't run after them barefoot in the rain. Because here's the truth. Men chase what they can't control, not because they're cruel, not because they're trying to play with your heart, but because desire thrives in space, in freedom, in that intoxicating mix of closeness and mystery. And a woman who is confident in herself, who doesn't need someone but chooses them, that's the kind of woman who stays on a man's mind long after she's left the room. But detachment is hard. It requires a kind of emotional courage that isn't always easy. It's knowing that you can adore someone and still walk away if they don't meet you at your level. It's understanding that your worth isn't measured by whether someone texts back or chooses to commit. It's standing in your power even when your heart wants to cling. Let's get one thing straight. Confidence isn't about being the loudest person in the room or pretending you don't care. It's not about playing hard to get or using detachment as a tool to manipulate someone into wanting you. True confidence, the kind that turns heads and makes a lasting impact, is about knowing your worth so deeply that you never feel the need to beg for love, attention, or commitment. But here's where a lot of women get it wrong. They think being available, overly accommodating, and always present will make a man see their value. They believe that if they just love harder, give more, and show unwavering devotion, he'll finally recognize what's in front of him. But in reality, that energy feels more like desperation than love. And desperation, it repels rather than attracts. Now, let's be clear. Wanting love isn't the problem. Craving connection, intimacy, and companionship is human. But the issue arises when you start equating your value with someone else's level of interest in you. When you start adjusting your personality, bending over backward, and holding on too tightly out of fear that he might lose interest, that's not love. That's fear disguised as love. Confidence, on the other hand, says, I love you, but I love me more. It says, I want you, but I don't need you to complete me. And that shift, that's powerful, because when a woman radiates self-assurance, when she stands firm in her own skin and refuses to cling, she creates an energy that men can't ignore. Think about it. What's more attractive? Someone who is constantly checking their phone, anxiously waiting for a text back, reshaping their life around a man's availability, or someone who knows she is already whole and lives her life fully, whether or not he's in the picture? It's the second one, always. Men are drawn to women who carry themselves like a prize, not like an option desperately waiting to be chosen. A confident woman doesn't hold on to a man out of fear that she won't find another one. She doesn't lose herself in the process of loving someone else. She is present, but she's not dependent. She's loving, but she's not needy. And here's the paradox. When you stop clinging, when you stop trying to control the outcome, you actually become more desirable, because confidence creates a sense of ease, of trust, of mystery. It tells a man that you are not looking for him to fill a void. You are simply offering your presence, your love, your energy. And that kind of love, that's the love men can't resist. Let's talk about something that isn't always obvious, but is absolutely undeniable. Emotional maturity is one of the most magnetic traits a woman can possess. Now, when we say magnetic, we don't mean flashy, loud, or overly dramatic. We're not talking about the kind of energy that demands attention in a desperate attempt to feel seen. No, emotional maturity is a quiet, steady force. It's the kind of presence that makes people feel safe, intrigued, and drawn in without even knowing why. And when it comes to men, this kind of woman is unforgettable. But what does emotional maturity actually look like? It looks like knowing your emotions without being ruled by them. It means you can experience the highs and the lows of love, but you don't spiral into chaos every time something doesn't go your way. It means you can handle disappointment without turning it into self-destruction. And you can express your needs without resorting to manipulation, guilt, or blame. Because here's the truth, men are deeply attracted to women who can hold their own emotionally. They may not always articulate it, but they feel it. A woman who is self-assured, who doesn't overreact to every small thing, who can navigate conflict with grace instead of hysteria, that's a woman who is deeply compelling. Now, let's contrast that with the opposite, emotional immaturity, clinging, overanalyzing, making every conversation a test, and needing constant reassurance to feel secure. When a woman lacks emotional maturity, relationships feel exhausting instead of enriching. Instead of love feeling like a safe place to land, it starts to feel like an emotional battlefield. And no matter how much he cares, wants to live in a war zone. The power of not taking everything personally. One of the hallmarks of emotional maturity is understanding that not everything is about you. If he's quiet one day, it doesn't mean he's lost interest. If he forgets to text back immediately, it doesn't mean he's pulling away. A woman who has mastered emotional maturity knows how to pause before reacting. She gives space, she allows the relationship to breathe. And because she's not controlled by insecurity, she makes a man feel at ease. And you know what happens then? He relaxes into the connection. He doesn't feel suffocated. He doesn't feel like he's walking on eggshells trying to manage her emotions. Instead, he feels safe, and safety is powerful. Detachment and emotional maturity go hand in hand. Let's be clear, being emotionally mature doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or act indifferent. It means you have the wisdom to know when to fight and when to let go, when to speak up and when to step back, and when to hold on and when to walk away. It means you don't beg, you don't force, you don't demand, you express your needs. And if they're not met, you have the strength to move forward with grace instead of resentment. And that's why emotionally mature women are irresistible. They don't chase love, they don't manipulate love, they become love. And that's the kind of energy men can't walk away from. One of the biggest misconceptions about detachment is that it means you don't care, that you're cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. But that's not true. Real detachment isn't about shutting down, it's about showing up differently. It's about loving deeply while still holding your own. It's about being in a relationship without losing yourself. When a woman understands detachment, she doesn't withdraw affection or play games to appear hard to get. She doesn't punish a man by ignoring his texts or acting indifferent just to make him chase her. No, she loves fully, but she never begs. She gives openly, but she doesn't overgive to the point of depletion. She engages, but she doesn't grip so tightly that she suffocates the connection. And that's what makes her irresistible. Detachment is self-respect, not indifference. Detachment means understanding that your value isn't determined by whether someone chooses you. It means knowing that you can deeply desire a person, but you will never need them to feel complete. And when you operate from this mindset, you remove the pressure from the relationship. Think about it. When someone needs something too much, it creates tension. It makes everything feel forced. If a woman is constantly trying to lock a man down or anxiously trying to prove her worth, she's actually pushing him away. Not because he doesn't like her, but because needy energy repels. It doesn't feel good to be around. It makes love feel like an obligation rather than a choice. But a detached woman, she's powerful because she knows she is the prize. She understands that no one, not even the most amazing man, determines her worth. And that confidence, that makes her unforgettable. The difference between detachment and avoidance, now let's be clear, detachment isn't the same as avoidance. Some women mistake one for the other. Avoidance looks like this: refusing to express feelings for fear of rejection, pretending not to care when you actually do, keeping people at a distance so you never get hurt, walking away too soon just to stay in control. That's not detachment. That's fear disguised as independence. True detachment means you are willing to risk emotional intimacy, but you don't demand it from the wrong person. It means you can express your emotions freely, but you don't cling if they aren't reciprocated. Men feel drawn to women who aren't afraid to walk away. One of the most powerful aspects of detachment is this: a woman who knows she'll be okay no matter what holds a certain kind of power. And men feel that. When a woman is secure in herself, she doesn't need constant reassurance. She doesn't panic if a man pulls away for a moment. She doesn't lose sleep over where things are going. Instead, she allows the relationship to unfold naturally. She's present in the moment rather than obsessing over the future. And paradoxically, that ease makes a man want to be closer to her. Why? Because detachment creates space for desire. Think about it. People are wired to crave what feels slightly out of reach. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that allows for intrigue, for longing, for pursuit. When a woman is too available, too accommodating, or too desperate for commitment, the mystery disappears. But when she is loving yet unattached, present yet not possessive, he feels a different kind of pull, one that isn't based on obligation, but on pure, undeniable attraction. Detachment is freedom. For you and for him, at the end of the day, detachment is about trusting yourself. Trusting that you don't need to force love. Trusting that you can give your heart without fear of losing yourself. Trusting that if something is meant for you, it will stay, not because you held on tightly, but because it was always yours. And that kind of trust, that kind of freedom, that's what makes a woman truly irresistible. Have you ever noticed how men seem to be drawn to the woman who isn't trying too hard, the woman who moves through life with ease, who isn't anxiously waiting for his text, who seems to be fully engaged in her own world, yet somehow he can't stop thinking about her? That's because men are wired to chase what feels free. Not free as in easy, not free as in disposable, but free as in unburdened, free as in not trying to control, force, or demand love. Neediness pushes, freedom pulls. A lot of women think the way to get a man's love is to be as present as possible, always available, always accommodating, always proving their worth. They think if they're the most patient, the most understanding, the most devoted, then he'll finally realize she's the one. But that's not how attraction works. Attraction isn't built on pressure. It's built on inspiration. Men don't fall in love because they feel obligated to. They fall in love because they choose to. And when a woman carries herself like someone who is already complete, like someone who isn't waiting for him to make her life exciting, that's when he feels drawn to her. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't mean you should pretend to be busy or act indifferent. That's manipulation, and men can sense it. isn't about playing games. It's about genuinely living your life in a way that is fulfilling, with or without him. When a man sees that a woman is deeply engaged in her passions, friendships, and self-growth, he wants to be part of her world. He doesn't feel like he has to be there. He feels like he wants to be there. The energy of clutching versus the energy of confidence. Think about what happens when you hold a handful of sand. If you grip it too tightly, what happens? It starts slipping through your fingers. But if you hold it with an open palm, it stays. Relationships work the same way. When a woman clings to a man, checking her phone every 2 minutes, analyzing every word he says, constantly needing reassurance, it creates a feeling of pressure. It turns love into something that feels like a responsibility instead of a desire. Even if he likes her, even if he thinks she's amazing, that weight starts to feel heavy. But a woman who moves with confidence, who loves freely but never begs, who can show up fully in a relationship but also fully in her own life, that's the woman men can't get enough of. The irony of freedom, the more you let go, the more he holds on. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing someone to choose you, the moment you stop gripping so tightly, that's when they lean in. Why? Because detachment allows space for desire to grow. When a woman is constantly trying to control the pace of the relationship, where is this going? Why hasn't he called yet? Does he still like me? She's unknowingly killing the natural rhythm of attraction. Instead of allowing the connection to build, she's trying to force it. And when something feels forced, it stops feeling fun. But when she lets go, when she trusts herself enough to believe that she is worthy, that she doesn't have to chase, that she is already enough, something shifts. Instead of constantly reaching for him, she stands still. And instead of pulling away, he comes toward her. Because men don't want to be trapped. They don't want to feel like love is something they have to manage. They want to feel the excitement of pursuing, of choosing a woman, not because she's desperate for them, but because she's so undeniably magnetic that they can't help but choose her. So how do you become that woman? Be present in your own life. Stop waiting for a man to make your life interesting. Fill your days with things that make you come alive, your passions, your friendships, your goals. A woman who is deeply engaged in her own world is automatically attracted. Hold love lightly. Enjoy the relationship, but don't grip it with fear. Trust that what is meant for you will stay. If you have to force it, it was never truly yours. Let him lean in. Give him space to pursue. If he feels like he's the one choosing to be there, he'll value the relationship more. If you're the one doing all the chasing, he'll eventually start running. Detach without closing off. Don't confuse detachment with emotional unavailability. You can love deeply and let go at the same time. The key is to never place your entire sense of worth in someone else's hands. There is a fundamental shift that happens when a woman realizes that her power in a relationship doesn't come from possession, it comes from presence. What does that mean? It means that you don't need to control, cling, or hold on too tightly to make a man stay. You don't have to play games, strategize, or constantly monitor his level of interest. Your value isn't measured by how tightly you can grip onto a man's attention. It's measured by how confidently you show up in the moment as a woman who is already whole, already complete, and already worthy. When a woman understands this, something changes, not just in the way men see her, but in the way she sees herself. She stops chasing, she stops proving, she stops fearing, and ironically, the moment she stops trying to possess love is the moment she becomes the kind of woman that no man wants to lose. Possession is an illusion. Let's be real. Nobody actually owns another person. Love isn't something you can hold in your hands like an object. It isn't something you can keep just because you want to. Love is a living, breathing thing. It flows, it moves, it grows when it's nurtured and withers when it's suffocated. But so many women try to lock love down out of fear. They think that if they keep a close enough watch on their relationship, monitoring his texts, tracking his actions, overanalyzing his words, they can somehow prevent him from pulling away. They think that if they do everything right, he'll never leave. But that's not how attraction works. The more you try to possess someone, the more you push them away. The more you grip, the more they resist. And the more energy you pour into controlling the relationship, the more you drain yourself in the process. Presence is magnetic now. Let's talk about what actually draws a man in. It's not control, it's not force, it's presence. A woman who is truly present in a relationship isn't constantly living in fear of what might happen next. She's not overthinking every interaction, trying to decode hidden meanings in his words. She's not replaying the past or obsessing over the future. She's here now, fully engaged in the moment. And that is powerful. When a woman operates from presence instead of possession, she creates an energy that is deeply attractive. She radiates confidence because she's not desperately trying to prove her worth. She already knows it. She enjoys the relationship for what it is rather than trying to mold it into what she wants it to be. And because she isn't weighed down by anxiety, insecurity, or neediness, she becomes someone that a man wants to be around. The difference between possessiveness and presence. Let's break it down. Possessiveness says, I need to make sure you don't leave me. Presence says, I enjoy this connection, but I will be okay no matter what happens. Possessiveness says, I'm afraid of losing you, so I'll hold on as tightly as I can. Presence says, I trust that what's meant for me will stay, and if it doesn't, I won't fight for what isn't mine. Possessiveness says, I need constant reassurance that you love me. Presence says, I already know my worth and I don't need outside validation to feel secure. Do you see the difference? One comes from fear, the other comes from self-trust. Why presence feels so good? Think about the people you love being around the most. Are they anxious, controlling, and worried about every little thing, or are they calm, confident, and secure in themselves? Presence feels safe. Presence feels light. Presence feels magnetic. Men, just like women, are drawn to people who make them feel at ease. When a woman is constantly worried about losing a man, it creates a heavy energy. But when she is fully present, fully enjoying the moment, fully trusting that everything will unfold as it should, that energy is addictive, how to shift from possession to presence. So how do you move from clinging to confidence, release the fear of loss? The truth is you can't control whether someone stays or goes. The only thing you can control is how you show up. Instead of wasting energy trying to hold on to something that isn't meant for you, focus on becoming the kind of woman who doesn't fear loss because she knows she'll always be okay. Embrace the present moment. Stop overthinking, stop strategizing, stop trying to predict the future. Instead, focus on now. Be present in your own life, your own growth, your own happiness. When you're truly engaged in the present, you radiate an energy that makes people want to be around you. Detach without disconnecting, being present, doesn't mean you have to be indifferent. You can love deeply and still let go of control. You can be emotionally available without being emotionally dependent. The key is to give love freely without gripping it too tightly. Trust yourself first. If you don't believe in your own worth, you'll always look for validation in someone else. The moment you start trusting yourself, your intuition, your decisions, your ability to handle anything, you stop needing someone else to choose you in order to feel valuable